All right, I guess we're about ready to start this morning. Let me double check something here. Give everybody a chance to get in. All right, so let's begin with prayer. Heavenly Father, we're very grateful that you've allowed us to be together today. We ask your blessings upon us as we study today and as we read your word, that we might understand properly and have the courage to apply what we read. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Trying to get rid of something here. Okay, we're in the book of 1 Peter, and we're going to try to move on today, see if I can find the right place to start. That isn't it. So let's go. We're going to leave behind our discussion of subjection of the role of husbands and wives, subjection in that sense. If you want to talk more about that, maybe we should have a class on that sometime soon. And I'll think about that. I think it's been 8 or 10 years since I did a class on marriage and family and all that kind of thing, looking at my notes. In any event, here we are looking at this book, 1 Peter, salvation, submission, and suffering. We're right here at the end of this section of submission, chapter 3, verses 8 through 12. And what he's saying, I'll summarize what he says in these verses, and I have it summarized here. All give blessing. Everybody should give blessing to everybody else. So there's a sense in which all of us are in submission to one another. What does that mean? Well, the submission means putting your interests second to somebody else's interests. That's what submission means. It means being ranked underneath or ranked in order. And so the husband says he is underneath God. He must act like that. The wife is under the husband in authority. She must respect him and understand that's what she's to do. The children and so forth. We come to that a little bit later on. And then he says all of us have to respect this. And the scripture then says here, finally, he's summing up this whole section. You saw we have a section here. Peter is summing up this section. And let's read it together, verse 8 of 1 Peter 3. Finally, all of you be of one mind, having compassion for one another, love as brothers, be tender-hearted, be courteous, not returning evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you may inherit a blessing. For he who would love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, but his ears are open to their prayers, but the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. So he says, finally, a summary of this whole section about being in submission that we just read. Servants to masters, husbands, wives, the whole thing. He says, be of one mind. Now, a lot of people would say that means we need to agree on everything. And I don't think that's even possible, especially when you define, like I do everything. So define everything, and then we can talk about that. What do you mean by everything? You know, do you like my hat? You know, that kind of thing. How can we all agree on that? That's not what he means. He doesn't mean agree on everything about doctrine or the church or goodness. He means have the same attitude and vantage point. One mind, a mindset. And I'll parallel this. I don't have it put up here. It's my fault. Philippians chapter 2, where he says beginning in verse 5, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who existing in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal to God, but he humbled himself So what mind? How can we have the mind of Christ and be like, oh, we're going to be divine and Son of God? No. He's saying in this respect, have the same attitude that Christ did, that even though he was equal to God, he didn't think it was something he had to hold on to. He could give it up to serve others. So that's what this mind is. Be of one mind. Same, and it's almost the same context. Don't be arrogant about yourself and about your rights. See, this is one of the, well, I say this all the time, but it really is an important thing to get across. Fish don't know they live in water. Okay, fish don't know they're in water because they're in water. The only time they know they're in water is when you jerk them up on the dock and they start flopping around there in the air. Now they know they're not in the water anymore. Other than that, they don't know they're in water because they're in water all the time. Human beings live in the culture that they're born in the day and time and culture. And most humans never think beyond that. This is the advantage of a good education in history, for example. Not post-critical theory history, but actual history. This is the advantage of history. It shows you, if you think about what you're seeing, that people had different vantage points down through time, and they lived under different circumstances. And then you get a view that, well, I can begin to understand my age as it is. Have you ever had the experience when somebody does something of you thinking to yourself, wow, I wonder if that's what I look like when I do that? Did you ever have that experience? Huh? I wonder if that's what I look like to other people. Well, I hope you have, because it means you're kind of a reflective person. If you haven't, you should probably stop and think about that. How do you look to other people? Because you probably assume, living in the water you live in, you look great to other people and everything you do is correct and they understand everything you do, but they don't. And some people look pretty bad and they don't know it. So you have these epiphanies. Sometimes your kid shows you this. Your kid says something really awful and you think to yourself, I wonder where they heard that. I wonder why they reacted like that, you see. Well, where did they learn that? They learned it from you. So you get a little glimpse of yourself outside the water you're swimming, and you get a little glimpse of what you actually look like. And people tend to live in the bubble of the 21st century. All of our life, and started before our lifetimes really, if you look back historically, they're going to call this the age of me, the age of the individual. Because we pride, and we hear it so often we don't even recognize what it is. Everything is determined by how you personally feel about something and what you personally think about something. And all of your actions have to be in alignment with that. And you have to be your authentic self all the time. And you always have to get your way. And you'll leave your husband and your children so you can go find yourself, because it's all about me. You'll slaughter your unborn children and you'll give the others up for adoption because you can't have what you want. Husbands do the same thing. I want this money, this career, this, that and the other. So they neglect their wives, neglect their children. It's all about self-fulfillment. Now, this is a 20th century idea. This general way of looking at the whole world through the lens of only you, well, it started a little bit before that, but it really came into vogue into popular culture in the 20th century, and now it's accelerated in the 21st century. Every political and moral decision today that's made by most people is made on the basis of me. Not other people, not the family that they live in. Now, other cultures aren't particularly like that. Islamic culture is not like that so much at all, for whatever you may think of it. Now, the negative of that is they think only in terms of the group. So they don't mind slaughtering their children and your children because it's all about the group, you see. So there's a benefit to thinking about me, and we should, but when it becomes the only priority, then things get distorted. Now here he says, as a Christian, here's the mind you need to have. You need to not just think about you. and what you think and how this makes you look and how you feel and what's going to happen to your life and my dreams, my fulfillment. You got to stop. That's not what your priority can be as a Christian. Have compassion for one another. Compassion. Compassion is a combination of Latin words, which in this, it's similar in Greek. It means to feel the same thing or have a common feeling. It's not the same as empathy, although it's very close to empathy. Empathy is very overrated if it's the way it's used today. Because empathy means since I feel what you do, then you can't be held accountable for what you're doing. Since I empathize with you, then you must be innocent. You must be good because I'm empathizing with you and you need empathy. Compassion simply says it looks at the other person's situation and you're able in some way to put yourself in their situation. Therefore, you want to help them because you feel what they feel. You want to do good toward them. When you feel what the other person feels, then you want to do something for them. That's what compassion is. So, who is suffering, they've lost a loved one. And this is what happened to Jesus. He saw Mary, Martha, all the other people weeping because Lazarus was dead. And he was moved to tears. He cried because he had compassion on them. He saw people who were poor, who had come to hear him. And he was moved because he had compassion on them. They looked like sheep without a shepherd. They didn't know what to do in life. They were sheep without a shepherd. So moved with compassion. It doesn't mean he thought that they were fine the way they were. It doesn't mean he thought that they were morally good and couldn't do anything wrong. It didn't mean that he didn't justify what they were doing. Since a person is poor, it's okay if they stole this stuff. That's not compassion. Compassion is understanding how a person might be moved to do that. But compassion doesn't excuse wrong. But compassion then tries to do what's good for one another. So here's the one another. There's a whole thing. You can look it up on the internet. I saw all these passages. I had a list of them somewhere I made myself. Then I found that somebody else already made a better list of all the one another passages in the New Testament. New Testament's full of passages about one another. That automatically, intrinsically moves everything away from the cultural standpoint of it's about me and my ideas, me, to one another. You can't be a faithful Christian in the long run if your focus is on yourself. Can't be. You will not be. You will distort the gospel of Christ, or you'll become unfaithful to Christ because it's about you. And that's why people end up having affairs and destroying their family and getting caught in scandals at work or becoming greedy because it's about them. But what's that?
I said chaos.
Chaos. Yes, chaos. Yes. When it's either Christ or chaos. We've been going over that. And that's what you have in the world because it becomes about each individual. Now, I'm all for individuality and individual human rights and all those things. So there's a place for this. But it's like everything else, it has to be put in its proper context. Individuality must be expressed and understood in a proper context. But without the idea of one another in Christianity, then there is nothing. There's no way to have a country if everybody is just for themselves. Can't have a country. You have to have some way of thinking about one another, other citizens. And if you don't think about other citizens, then you can't have. Well, get out on the roads here. People are driving. Who are they thinking about when they're driving today? Themselves. That's who they're thinking about. That's what only thing they're concerned about is I'm late or I don't like this or I want to do this. Now, I don't know. See, it's easy to become a crotchety old man. I understand that. Do you think it's worse than it used to be, selfish drivers? Larry, you used to patrol the highways, the roads. Is it worse today than it used to be or not?
That was 20 years ago.
Well, okay, give me something from 30, 40 years ago. That's good. That's better. You drive.
You had idiot drivers 20 years ago, 50 years ago. To me, I don't see any difference.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. There you go. That's your opinion. Now, and I think, and that might be more correct, but people feel like, here's what I would get at. Here's what I'd say to that, and that's probably correct. Always been bad drivers, always been, but people, the reason people today get so upset about that, and I'm basing this on online comments on Nextdoor, is because it's bothering them. See, when the guy does something stupid in traffic, we used to go, huh, now we get all mad about it because it makes me late. Yes, ma'am. So correct him.
No, I think it's a more violent attitude
More violent?
today.
Well,
People, don't think twice about shooting somebody.
where does violence come from in the human heart? What place? From selfishness or from compassion? Where does violence come from? Yeah, we know where violence comes from. And that's a point I'm making. It's a reflection of everything is about the way it works, it makes us feel. And I raise my hand, I'm sure I'm guilty of this too, but as a Christian, you have to have this singular mind, one mind, that we are going to have compassion for one another, try to understand each other. And I would even put this to the idea of giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's another way to express partly what he means here. Because he says, be brother, love his brothers. I got 3 brothers. I love them as if my own. I give my life to them any day that I needed to. Not a problem to me. I give them the benefit. If somebody said something about one of my brothers, I wouldn't say, oh, that can never be true. Listen, I wouldn't say that if somebody told me any of you did something horrendous, I wouldn't say, oh, that couldn't have happened. I'm sorry. It could happen. Yes, you could do that. Anybody can do anything they want, anytime they want. Is that about right? We don't have all of our policemen here today. Is that about right? Anybody can do anything that they want, anytime they want. None of this, oh, he could never do that. She could never do that. Oh, yeah, they can. What do they want to do? But if you said that about one of my brothers, I'd say, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt until I know 100% for sure, because I know them. And I understand them and I love them as brothers, so I'm not going to immediately believe something wrong about somebody else. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion. One little thing they do isn't going to upset. I know people get upset with one of my brothers. I've had, Dan is this, Dan did this, Dan did that. And I'm like, yeah, Dan said 100 things like that to me. But I know he doesn't mean what you think he means by it, okay? Give him a chance, he'll do 100 good things for you. Why? Why would I do? Well, because I tell brothers they're supposed to love each other. So people here can do something or say something some Sunday or some other time you see them, and it can hurt you maybe or puzzle you. Loving as a brother means you give them the benefit of the doubt. If they prove that they just can't be trusted, they can't be reliable to do the good thing. They can prove it to you. I'm not saying you can't prove that you don't deserve to be trusted. You can. But we have to love as brothers. And so you give them benefit of the doubt. You try to pick them up instead of kick them when they're down. All these. So there's a lot in this, love as brothers. I like that expression. Be tender-hearted. There's nothing in tender-heartedness that's about me. It's not about me. Or my value, my authenticity, my whatever I want to say. Finding myself. What's tender-hearted mean? In English, I don't even have the Greek here in front of me. Think about it.
Soft.
What's that?
Soft and caring.
Soft. Well, that's probably right, Sandy. It means soft as far as the heart is concerned. It means not something that is. Hang on, I'm trying to do the same thing I did the other night, and boy, this app is just not letting me want to do it. Oh well. Trying to look up something on my phone, but it's set to this camera here and can't get to do anything else. Tender-hearted means that the heart, it's opposite of hard-hearted. I think it was in our class on Wednesday night we talked about being hard-hearted. So here's the heart and the truth or something Comes in, hits the heart, and bounces off like bullets off Superman. A lot of people are like that. That's the selfish heart. That's the self-oriented heart. All the stuff other people need, they're not hearing what you're saying. They're only thinking, how does this affect me? If you got a hard heart, some person says, I'm having trouble, I need this or that or the other, and before they can even begin to get the whole sentence out, you've already in your mind rejected everything they're going to say. You don't want to hear it. Have you ever talked to somebody where you know, by the way, I don't want to hear it? I have. I'm sorry to tell you. I don't want to hear it. I do try to listen though. But that's not a tender heart. It's a skeptical heart. Yeah, go ahead.
Where he says for us to be of one mind, he goes ahead and explains what he means in the rest of the verse.
Yes, I meant to say that. Good. He said he explains the rest of what he means by be of one mind. He explains it, gives some of the aspects of that in the rest of the verse. That's exactly right.
Compassionate and love one another.
Right. So to be of this, here are the things he wants you to be of one mind about. So listen, you can't be of one mind about everything in the whole world, but you can be of one mind about these things as Christians. He picks these things out. So being tender-hearted, we should all have that same attitude toward each other, that we care about things. We're not hard-hearted toward our brothers, and so forth. And we need to have more of that. I would say, in my own opinion, in churches I've dealt with, mostly with this church, of course, for the last 30 years. But see, the first week of January, when is that? That's about a month. I will have been preaching at this church for 30 years. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Some of you aren't even 30 years old. I've seen most of these young people I've seen born. The only people that were here when I came here were Gary and Sharon and Karen. Well, besides Christy and her sister, Jennifer. I think that's all that's left. All the rest of you are newbies. In any event,
You forgot one. I was here.
who?
I was here.
Say it.
I was here. I remember you.
I thought you were away in college.
No, we were married by then.
You were married by then when your husband, you and James were
34
here?
years.
Really? Yes, you're right. I did forget.
It's okay.
Okay.
Used to it.
But I thought you were away in college, living somewhere else. Okay. I still think I'm right, but I'm hard-hearted. But since Stacy said it, she's moved me 98% to thinking that she's right.
It's all right.
That 2% is still there. I'm going to have to go to a higher authority and ask you know who. Yes. Who knows everything. Okay. I'm going to have to appeal to a higher authority. Stacy's high up there, though, but
It's okay.
nobody's there with Judy yet about remembering details of things. She knows what I wore, went out to dinner on our 10th anniversary, that kind of stuff. Anyway, if we did go out. She remembers if we did go. I had to ask her the other day, it says on our calendar that we were engaged on November 24th or something, 1974, 51 years ago. And we looked at that together, so we were looking at calendars, and she says, I don't think that's right. And I said, well, I wouldn't know. We sat down together one year and figured that out. You told me that was right, so I put it in the calendar. She goes, yeah, but I think it was a Sunday, and we did. And I said, so then I said, say it this way. I said, so tell me about me proposing to you. What was that like? See, I was trying to find out what in the world I said, how this happened. I had no idea. I couldn't remember it all, hardly remember it all proposing to her. Because it wasn't roses, music, get down on your knee and all that stuff. It wasn't anything like that at all. We had to go to Service Merchandise a little later and buy a $30 ring. We didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. Diamond so small you can't even. Anybody remember Service Merchandise?
Yeah.
Where it comes out on the belt, So we had a little bubble gum machine out front. I got an engagement out of that. Anyway, so the point being, I had to get the lowdown on what that engagement or what that proposal was like. Stealthily. It wasn't stealthy. But anyway. Because she remembers. In any event, be tender-hearted. So what was I trying to tell you here? What was I talking about? Tender-heartedness.
talking about the opposite of being tenderhearted is being
Opposite of hard-hearted, right? I had another story I was going to tell you. You're right. Opposite of hard-hearted. So things can penetrate your heart. Things can penetrate you. But here it is. I've been around churches a long time. And in the past, previous generation, a brother or sister could come to the church and say, I need help. What was the default answer in those situations? No. Was always the default answer. You must be wasting your money. You must be this. It must be this. They want a financial statement before they give anybody help and all this kind of stuff. I've seen all this kind of stuff. Now that is pretty. And here's people who've been in the church for a long time. They're not rich usually. They're the poorest ones in the church. But there was a hard-heartedness about all of that. Now, were there occasions where, and it's true, are there occasions where people take advantage of the church to get help? Of course. But once again, when you start off by assuming that the brother that you've known in the church is trying to be a crook and take money without needing it, what do you call that except hard-hearted? Huh? On the other hand, if you don't use any discretion at all in the church's in handling the church's money, well, then you're not being responsible either. So there is a balance in everything, isn't there? But I don't think our default should always be a hard-hearted, prove it, let's do an investigation, show me a financial statement, blah, 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 before we could do anything to help anybody. And that's true about a lot of issues. That's true about a lot of issues. And then be courteous. Wow. That's one that we never associate with being a Christian, being courteous. Well, we should. Manners. They used to spend a lot of time teaching you about manners when you were a kid when I was growing up. Even our little lower middle class neighborhood and family and school. A lot of times talking to kids about manners. Please, thank you, may I, this, do that, say, and you respond properly. I got criticized in one church I was at. You may criticize me too, and it's okay, I don't care, because I know I'm right. But so it wouldn't bother me. But well, just wait and see if you think I'm right. There's all these other families there, and my kids are junior high age and down at this point in time, maybe early high school. So they had to call a man named Ronald Moore and his wife Roseanne, Mr. Ronald or Miss Roseanne. Here is Guy Moore, one of the elders. They had to call him Mr. Moore, Miss Flossie. Everybody in there they could not address any adult that was much older than them without Mr. or Mrs. or aunt or uncle. If they did, Daddy came down on them. Can't talk to those older people like that. It's not right. Boy, those people didn't like that. You know what it was? Oh, you make me sound so old. Oh, you bunch of boomers, get over yourself. Again, I don't care if it makes you sound old. You are old compared to them, and they need to learn to respect you. That's what I told them as a father. Much more important to my children to respect you, even if you're not respectable, than it is for them just to call you Joe or whatever the case may be. You're shaking your head, Victoria. What do you think?
I still respect them.
You think I'm right? See, I feel good now. I feel validated.
The way I was raised.
How many of you were raised like that? A lot of you were. Some of you weren't. Now, I'm not saying that's a rule in the Bible. I'm saying that it's courteous. So this was a big deal. Be courteous. So you go to a store and you say please and you say thank you. You call people ma'am and sir. They don't like it when you call them ma'am or sir, because it makes them feel old or whatever. And today, are they really a ma'am or a sir? I just take a guess. But I'm going to call them that. And if they don't like it, they can, whatever. I called the young girl that waited on me at Dunkin' Donuts this morning, ma'am. She's like 16 or 17. I called her ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Why? Because it's courteous. That's all. When you meet somebody new, you shake their hand. Whatever the case may be, always put your, why? Because it shows a level of respect for the other, once again, a me thing, respect for the other person. Now, you may not even like them, or you may learn to dislike them, but you are courteous to them so that there's a level of respect, and that smooths out a lot of problems. It just smooths out a lot of problems in society. But we're rude today to each other. Call each other all kind of names, don't respect each other, don't acknowledge the other person's existence. We don't acknowledge people that are higher than us in the social order or in authority, or even lower than us. And that's the person you really need to be courteous to, is the one who is lower than you in the social order of things, at work or something. You really need to be courteous to those people. If you walked around the place where you work and you're some kind of an executive, and you speak to all the people that are sweeping the floors and clean up the mess, and you speak to them as if you do to anybody else, I guarantee you they're going to know that, and that's going to be a shock to them. Because a lot of the people that are in charge, those people are invisible. The help is invisible. To many people in our city, the people that wait on them at the stores are invisible. They're like a part of the cash register to them. Is that the way Christians ought to be? It doesn't meet this criteria, does it? Be courteous. So we need to teach our children manners. We need to have better manners with each other. Does it cover table manners? Knowing which fork to use. Maybe. Up to a point. Should you be a slob when you go to somebody's house? Should you be a slob and take the last piece of pizza in the box? Take the last piece of chicken. I'm always after that last drumstick, I can tell you that. I got my eye on that one. Only if you ask first. And then other people, see, when I ask about, can I have the last drumstick, I'm counting on other people being courteous and saying, oh, sure, Mike, even if they want it. So I want other people to be courteous because then I get the last drumstick. All right, anyway. It's just how it works. Who does get the last pizza? Well, now, at our family dinners, I tell them this all the time. It's funny. I tell it because it's funny to me growing up. When I was a kid, at these big dinners, families all there, and my grandparents and great-grandparents, and my grandparents, all the aunts and uncles, and all the older cousins, and you're always the last one to get to go through the line. You're always the last one because you're one of the little kids. And then you got to go sit at the kids' table. Anybody have to go through this? And then I got older, I got my kids, and then people started, well, I think we should let the kids go first after all their children. You do that at your house. You ain't doing that at my house. I wait a long time to go first. Or at least in the middle. I get at least be in the middle now. I'm not going to the back of the line again. You go to the back of the line. In my house, a guest, and usually I just say, the oldest people go first. So Gary and Jan get to go first. I don't even hear. Man, missed my chance. They get to go first, or Gary and Sharon get to go ahead of me, or a guest. We had some guests that came to our house on Thanksgiving that had not been there before. We didn't hardly know them. Never met a couple of them before. You go first. Why do we do that? It's courteous, that's why. I think. Maybe it's stupid, but the children need to learn. You can be at the back of the line. That's okay. Now I got no problem. We got a little baby. You can, I'm just saying it's not a hard and fast rule, but it shows them. And my grandchildren will generally move to the back of the line because they're children. I think this is good for their psyche. It's good for their moral development, and so forth. Then he says, now he gets into the tough stuff. Time is it back here? Now see, we're on the fourth string, so we don't have a helper here. All right, Inell, you can do it. Ring the first bell. Push it one time. You're the kind of guy that likes to do that stuff. Ring that bell one time and stay right there. No, over all the way to your left, above the door, the doorbell, right there. Just one time. Now stay right there because we're going to do 2 times. Just a second. That tells the teachers wrap it up back there. Not returning evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you may inherit a blessing. You were called to be a blessing. You have to give blessings. You've been saved because God gave you a blessing. You're going to inherit a blessing. So you don't give anything but blessings to other people if you can. You do not return evil for evil. Somebody does you wrong, you don't think about how you're going to do them wrong. Once again, this is completely contrary to the way the world around us operates. Most humans operate on evil for evil. Reviling for reviling. Somebody says something bad to you. You see somebody cussing somebody out, and you stop and say, what are you doing? What are they going to say? Well, you should see what they did. Not cussing them out because they did this or they said this. Well, they're giving reviling for reviling. That's what they're doing. He says, you Christians cannot do this. You're called to do something different. All right, ring it 2 times. It's supposed to be 5 minutes in between, but we got a little carried away here. Anybody got one last comment, then we're going to quit? Yes, sir, Doug. Doug, you got a comment? No? Oh, okay. All right. We're good then. All right. Thank you very much. We'll pick back up here next week. You had a comment?
I did.
Yes, sir.
I think that of one mind also is ties into one spirit.
Yes, it does connect with one spirit. We have the Spirit of Christ in us, right? And therefore we should reflect that in what we do. It's not an automatic thing that, well, since you've got the Holy Spirit, you're going to automatically do this. But you have to live like that. You have to learn to have that spirit. I agree with that. That's right. It's one spirit. In fact, I'll look that word mind up. Mind and spirit are related to each other in the New Testament in the way they're used. That's a good comment. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. We'll pick up that next week.
Well, I did have one thing to say.
Too late. Go ahead, real quick.
Okay. I like to wait till everybody gets through in line, and eat, and just sit back and wait and then go get my food. But Judy always said, get up there and eat. That's because I'm old.
Well, yeah, but see, Doug, you're just thinking about yourself in that sense. No, I got you. Thank you very much, people. I appreciate it. I'm not trying to say, I'm talking about what we do, that this is the way you got to do it, with some kind of puffery. I'm just trying to show how some of these things might be put into actual practical use on some level. If you do it for yourself.